You can feel it in the air, the tension, the disbelief, and the quiet but unmistakable anger rippling through Alberta today. Because after what just happened, the relationship between Ottawa and Edmonton may never be the same again. It started as a whisper, a rumor no one wanted to believe, that Canada's trade negotiations with the United States had completely fallen apart. But as statements began trickling out from Washington and Ottawa, that whisper became a roar. And in Alberta, the reaction was instant and explosive. Premier Danielle Smith didn't waste a single moment. Within hours of the announcement, her tone shifted dramatically. She called an emergency cabinet meeting, refused to take questions from Ottawa-based reporters, and when she finally spoke, her message wasn't one of cooperation, it was a warning. A warning that Alberta was prepared to take control of its own destiny. Now, she didn't say the word autonomy outright. She didn't have to. The look on her face, the tone of her voice, it said everything. Because here's the reality. Alberta's economy has been hit squarely in the chest. With trade collapsing, oil exports stalled, and Washington prioritizing direct U.S. energy independence under President Trump, Alberta feels like it's been left standing in the cold, again. And the worst part? Many Albertans think Ottawa saw this coming and did nothing. People are asking, where was Prime Minister Mark Carney? How could Canada's top economist-turned-politician allow trade to unravel this spectacularly? Insiders say Carney's office was warned weeks ago that the Americans were losing patience over Canada's shifting energy policies and new export taxes. But Ottawa, according to sources close to the talks, believed Washington was bluffing. They weren't. When Trump signed the executive order halting all bilateral trade discussions, the fallout was immediate. The Canadian dollar dropped. Alberta's energy producers froze shipments. And within hours, U.S. officials began reaching out directly, not to Ottawa, but to provincial energy ministers in Western Canada. That's when the real panic began. Ottawa reportedly tried to step in and reassert control, reminding provinces that foreign trade negotiations fall under federal jurisdiction. But Alberta's response was, let's just say, far from polite. According to one senior official, Danielle Smith told Ottawa in no uncertain terms that if Alberta can't rely on Ottawa to defend its interests, then Alberta will defend itself. Now that statement, those words, have sparked a political wildfire. Because to some in Ottawa, that sounds dangerously close to a declaration of intent. Not separation, not yet, but something almost as serious: full provincial autonomy. Think about what that means. Alberta controlling its own trade deals. Alberta handling its own energy regulations. Alberta deciding, independently, who it sells oil to and on what terms. And that's precisely what has Ottawa rattled tonight. Behind closed doors, Carney's cabinet is reportedly divided. Some ministers are urging calm, to wait it out and assume Alberta's talk is just posturing. But others aren't so sure. They've seen the polling. They know that support for greater provincial independence has surged dramatically since the trade collapse. And they're watching, nervously, as more and more Albertans take to social media demanding that the province cut the cord once and for all. In Calgary and Edmonton, the mood is electric. Radio hosts, commentators, and business leaders are all asking the same question. If Ottawa can't protect Alberta's economy, what's the point of Ottawa? Meanwhile, across the border, U.S. officials aren't exactly helping calm things down. President Trump, never one to miss an opportunity, has been posting cryptic messages about energy freedom in North America and great opportunities with great friends to the north. No one knows exactly what he means, but everyone understands the implication. Washington sees Alberta as a potential partner, maybe even a direct energy supplier, independent of Ottawa. And if that's true, it changes everything. The big question now is whether Danielle Smith takes the bait. Publicly, she's still framing her position carefully, insisting she's simply exploring Alberta's options. But privately, according to several senior aides, she's been reviewing constitutional boundaries and trade law. In other words, she's looking for the legal door Ottawa forgot to lock. Carney's government, of course, is pushing back hard. Late last night, the Prime Minister's office released a terse statement condemning any attempt by a province to undermine the unity of the Canadian Federation. But the response, frankly, sounded weak, almost desperate. Especially when you consider that, as of this morning, 3 Western premiers have publicly supported Alberta's right to chart its own course. That phrase, chart its own course, is now everywhere. It's on bumper stickers, hashtags, even t-shirts. A slogan born out of frustration, now turning into a movement. But let's be clear, no one's officially talking about separation. Not yet. What's happening instead feels more subtle, more strategic. Alberta isn't threatening to leave Canada outright. It's daring Ottawa to stop it from acting like it already has. It's a power play unlike anything we've seen in decades. And make no mistake, this isn't just about pride or politics. This is about money, billions of dollars in lost trade revenue, energy contracts, and cross-border deals that evaporated overnight. Alberta's government knows that if it doesn't move fast, those opportunities will shift south permanently. So, they're acting. Reports suggest Alberta is already drafting a Provincial Sovereignty Action Plan, an internal policy document outlining steps to expand control over interprovincial trade, taxation, and environmental regulation. If implemented, it would effectively sidestep federal oversight on key industries, something that would have been unthinkable a few years ago. And here's where things get really interesting. Legal experts say Ottawa might not actually have the tools to stop it, because the Constitution gives provinces significant authority over resources and local trade. So if Alberta decides to push that boundary to its legal edge, Ottawa would have to challenge it in court, a process that could take months, maybe years. By then, the political damage could be irreversible. Now imagine this: the U.S., frustrated with Ottawa, quietly signs provisional energy agreements directly with Alberta-based corporations. Oil shipments resume, pipelines hum again, and Alberta's economy stabilizes without Ottawa's involvement. What does that look like? A province operating independently. A nation within a nation. And Ottawa knows it. That's why Mark Carney's office is reportedly working around the clock, calling premiers, drafting emergency proposals, and even considering federal incentives to keep Alberta from walking further down this path. But it might be too late. So here we are, a nation in shock, a province on the edge, and a prime minister scrambling to hold it all together. Mark Carney insists the Federation is strong, that Canada will endure. But in the West, people aren't so sure anymore. The tone has changed. The patience is gone. And as Danielle Smith stands before her province, watching the fallout unfold, she seems calm, even confident. She knows the next move belongs to her. The question now isn't if Alberta will push for autonomy. It's how far it's willing to go. And as the dust settles from this unprecedented trade collapse, one thing is becoming clearer by the day: whatever happens next, Canada will never be the same again.